It's fine.
um, so,
So, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say,
got
Catalina, I
nothing.
think it's an old favorite. I mean, it's kind of like Overgrowth. People have pretty well figured it out, and it's mostly balanced in all matchups. I would say that probably in ZVT, it's slightly Terran favored. You might say it's bad for Zerg in all matchups, but I think the thirds are close enough that you can get creep there fairly quickly. You might have to play a little bit differently, and the main's a little bit bigger than a Zerg would typically like. But I think it still has a lot of good options here. And we're going to see mostly macro games on this map, of course. You can see crazy things in mirror matchups like we just did, or sometimes in PvT, but certainly less common. I think it's pretty bad to cheese in most ways. But sorry, Kevin, take her away.
So spawning in on the left side here of Catalina, he is our red Terran playing from Minnesota. He is Zan, the Team Ascension player looking to win this series and bring himself up into the grand finals if he does indeed beat Playa.
And spawning at the 1:32 p.m. o'clock location with the very same aspirations to go on to the grand finals, our Blue Protoss Playa.
Now I said these players don't cheese, but Playa's got an interesting pylon placement.
Yeah, and so I kind of expect pretty strong to do a proxy 1 gate, especially a map like this. He's doing the same thing as that Seagull Flash, right? He's dropped it right in the middle. He's coming in at a pretty standard probe scout timing, a little bit early.
Sure.
Just a little bit faster. Typically it would come right at double the time there as far as the rush distance, but not so crazy, right? He could have pylon scouted or something like that. But Zan won't know anything is strange, right? He won't be able to block off his ramp until his SCV gets to the scout. A little lucky for Zan here that it looks like he's going to get the first scout.
Yeah, certainly. It's he is he is definitely going to luck out on this because he will be able to manage to have. I mean, if he well, not really panics, but rushes and gets that wall off completed, he should have it closed up before that Zealot gets there. But I guess as a Terran, I mean, do you even want a wall off? Because it doesn't matter too much if it's that a Zealot's going to be coming at you and you have a Reaper. You can just kind of kite it around all day.
Right, you can just cut it around. What you're more scared about is the situation where you either have lots of zealots, right? Or if you
Sure.
have like a zealot and then they follow up with stalkers.
Yeah.
Because the stalkers are the bullies until marauders come out. So
Yeah, and I guess he doesn't know that it's a 1 gate yet. If it's a
Right,
2 gate,
right.
then it's a lot scarier.
And he doesn't know where it is. He doesn't know what's coming from it. So in this situation, he's going to very comfortably be able to hold, lose no SCVs, anything like that, and it does force some play out right here for just the cost of that gateway and zealot. So it's not terrible, and Zan might not necessarily pick that off from the middle of the map anytime soon. He
Yeah.
might know right where it is from prior experience.
Somehow his scouting pattern and his queued up worker rally was going to see it, but he managed to stop the scout for it, and he still has not even scouted the middle of the map to see that proxy gateway. So
Right. I think it's just a matter of he's seen it's only one zealot so far, and so he doesn't really care.
yeah. And
At
I
this
guess
stage.
a Reaper would take forever to destroy that anyway, and he'd rather spend that time, learning about what the rest of his opponent's build is starting to look like.
Right. So he gets to see the expansion timing, so he knows it's not anything crazy, right? He's not like 2-gating into a cyber core to do, a 2-gate sort of stalker play or something like that. That's just bad in general. So happy for him.
And
But he is Zan. This is kind of curious. He is opting to CC on the high ground, which to me indicates aggression, right? Because he wants to be able to survive any sort of counterattack, and or wants to be able to invest more in army than in SCVs in the early game here. So I think that's kind of curious. He did see the pretty quick follow-up from Playa to drop that early Nexus, kind of ignoring the fact that he proxied the gate.
yeah, I mean, he may also have put the CC up on the high ground because, I mean, if another Zealot gets gets created from that gateway and ends up just harassing your SCVs trying to build a command center. I mean, that could be certainly quite frustrating, but
Sure.
and similar sort of, well, no Stargate, but Dark Shrine
almost
first.
catches the Reaper.
Oh yeah, but the Reaper's done his job. He can go home and retire basically, or be left to die.
Yeah, a little bit of miscontrol there from Zan, shortly followed by the small miscontrol. It's not so much as he made a bad play as he failed to make a good play, and Zan just assumed, I think, that the Reaper would die.
Yeah, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I see what I see. Do I really need this Reaper anymore? Probably not. But
Maybe he didn't want to be supply blocked.
yeah, he's just he's opening up supply for. That's exactly it. But Zan will respond properly and put down a missile turret. And really, I guess we have to question. Playa knows that Zan's not a bad player, obviously. Will Playa even, create anything from this Dark Shrine? Will he make a Dark Templar? I mean, he could have just.
The big thing here, right, is it's really strong defensively in the early game, right? Because Zan doesn't want to burn scans, and if he goes in with just pure bio, 1 DT, right, will live forever and will eventually clean things up.
Certainly.
So I don't mind the play. I think it's rather clever.
A little bit of.
And once again, I think that Playa knows that mine's there, and he's just trying to draw the shot. But
yeah, certainly, and a little bit of friendly fire on that first mine shot. And a scan that ends up not actually cleaning up a Dark Templar, meaning, yeah, this defense it's quite complete. No workers killed by either players.
Sure.
So Zan not really getting what he wanted and losing out on, losing one Widow Mine so far. We'll see if he loses this next one or if he manages to sneak it around properly.
Right. So in the end, right, Zan's able to draw a Photon Overcharge for the cost of a Widow Mine there, but also burns the scan. So kind of even in that trade in that regard, but but really in the end, not a big impact from that play. He is still, he gets some map presence. He gets to see what's going on. He's gotten a few probe kills, I want to say. No, just the one there.
Yep. So not Playa managing to hold this off quite well.
Right. So, I mean, so kind of like what I was saying earlier, the DTs are going to be able to maintain map presence for some time. They're going to be useful defensively for some time. Because in this game, Zan doesn't really want to, to spend time and resources towards getting a Raven. But this might force him to. If nothing else, he gets Archons out of it later. And if he's lucky, he maybe gets a Warp Prism drop or something like that, or denies a third with them later on. So we'll see how it kind of goes from there. Play opening with a Phoenix out of the Stargate there.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a game that Play has played where he has not created a Phoenix. He's a big fan.
He should be able to pick off the medevac here.
Yep.
Which is very cool.
Phoenix.
There's no reason that Phoenix should die, but it might.
Okay, very close. 2 more medevacs coming in on the west side. They will be looking to drop Playa's base again. Zan with okay, those Marines get cleaned up. I was about to say he can.
MWC4 is out of position here, and so is his ground army. So this is 2 medevacs, right, up against a single photon cannon. So sure. Zan should be looking to do some pretty good damage here, picking off tech structures, killing probes. We'll see what he decides here. He's going straight for the Dark Shrine.
Yes.
Right, and here you go. This is the annoying defense that the DT allows you.
Yeah, certainly. And so, really, at the end of the day, only 1 more worker killed off of that drop. I mean, he killed off a cannon, but as Playa says, you're just trying to drop and pray. Ooh, a little bit of sauce coming out.
Little sauce coming out from both players.
Yeah, so.
Another double drop.
Yeah, Zan.
Coming to the third Zan. I don't think he's scanned. Nope, he's just thinking maybe there's a third here, or maybe he's just going to drop the back of the natural. Playa not in a great position to be able to save this. We'll see if he's able to save it before needing to cancel it, but regardless, it draws him out of position, right? So this other drop could go to the main and do a lot of damage. Again, this is one of those situations. Zan doing a good job of multitasking, multi-prong aggression, and abusing the map.
Although Playa also doing an excellent job at actually holding off this aggression. I mean, he's only lost 3 workers and managed to kill off, a couple of, at least a medevac. He'll probably clean up maybe another medevac. He's got these phoenixes up in the air to give a lot of defense against those drops. They do manage to come in, but he will clean them up eventually. Strap up in the main, actually killing off 7 workers now. So Zan finally managing to break through the defenses a little bit. And at the end of the day, though, the worker count still highly in Playa's favor. Playa is kind of a macro monster, if you will.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is what he does well, right? He established his base, just like White Rod always taught us, right? Make base and then defense it.
Yep.
We expand and then we defense it. But Playa, not with the best tools in the Protoss arsenal to defend this sort of aggression, but he's really doing a good job with what he has. Charge a lot now, right? Very helpful. He does have the couple of. Has he created more Phoenix? It's like not, but I mean, he's
so.
spending his photon overcharges sparingly here.
Yeah, although Zan, he's still kind of starting to pick off more and more probes as this goes on. I mean, Playa's choice to expand. I mean, yes, expanding is great, but it means you just have one more place on the map that you have to defend. And right now we've got a merry-go-round of of pairs of medevacs just trailing around the airspace and Playa's bases and really causing quite the headache. Most other players would be well out of the game by this point in time.
Right, exactly. I certainly would. I usually GG as soon as 2 medevacs drop in 2 locations. I'm like, see you later, guys. It was fun.
I can't do this with just my mouse hand. What the heck? You use a keyboard?
It's been very good of Playa, though, also to keep the Phoenix count low. He could invest in more observers, right, to be able to just get a little bit of a jump. He does have, 1 or 2? He has 1 observer out on the map. 2 or 3 would be really helpful to be able to spot out some of these other drops, but the Phoenix doing a really good job themselves.
Sure, and I mean, I guess your mention of the Phoenixes staying low and being good is actually that, as we can see, the army supply, while the worker supply is well ahead for Playa, the army supply for Zan is kind of always been a little bit ahead of that of Playa's. However, Playa choosing to invest in the high cost, high tech, high usage units more so than on just a bunch of stalkers or something like that.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's the big thing is you see him working all sorts of ways to not create stalkers. Right, stalkers terrible in the later game, very weak in a straight up fight against Marine Marauder Medevac. So it's really pretty creative, pretty cool play to avoid building out because the normal tool, right, is in the normal meta right now. You get Blink, you get a bunch of stalkers, and that way you can bounce between bases to defend. And then you try to round out your composition with Colossus and with Storm, and you hope that his EMPs are worse than your feedbacks and Storms.
Yeah, certainly. And we do have the ghosts. A number of ghosts already out for Zan. He's finally cleaning up this warp gate that's been in the middle of the map the whole time. He's laying down a couple of scans, trying to understand, okay, where do I need to posture up my army to be able to take this engagement? What sort of army am I anticipating? There's just 1 Colossus, and with some good...
Right, but we have a lot of charge loss here, right? So that's
true.
a lot of tanking ability, a lot of DPS against
the Colossus goes down right away, though. Pretty decent EMPs.
Zan should try to, with a small segment, target down these Phoenix, because otherwise they're going to pick off his medevacs, and those are really his expensive units there, but instead he takes up the straight-up fight. And in the end, Playa just doesn't have enough zealots to stay in the fight.
Yeah, really.
Interesting. It looks like he's going for the win.
Yeah, and that attack hit just a little bit before Extended Thermal Lance was finished up. Playa wasn't quite in the right spot to defend that. That Colossus went down right before the fight really even happened, and that along with a couple of pretty good EMPs out of Zan means he wraps up game number 1 on Catalina, and we will be rolling off into game number 2 on Vani Research Station in this winners final of the Midwest Cup number 4. So this is not the grand final; it is the winner final. I guess you could call it the semifinals. This basically puts the winner of this one will end up in the grand finals. The loser will go down into the loser final where they will be playing against Warren. And then from there, get up to the grand final. So we're still, I mean, nobody's out of it yet, and nobody's going to be raging too hard from losing, but they will. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. They still have a chance, even if they're out of this series. They'll they have a chance to get that revenge, maybe get that fire burnt up inside of them, and work their way through the losers final and get back to the grand finals. We will see though. So we are into the lobby on Vani Research Station. And we've got a little bit of salt between the players, but hey,
salt being hurled back and forth.
Yes,
in the lobby.
There is no shortage, but hey, players get a little bit. You get passionate about the game, and sometimes
if you get fired up about things, yeah, you certainly care about it, right?
Yeah.
So really cool there. I mean, Zan managed to never have a trade that was just horrible for him, right? He had a couple, he loses the Reaper for free kind of deal when he didn't need to. There are a couple of single medevac drops where, he has a little bit of trouble there, but in the end, in the end, he manages to keep all of his trades pretty cost efficient, and in the end, Playa just, couldn't take a good big fight there, and that's really what he needed to do there.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I think I didn't quite catch the worker count at like the end of the game there, but Playa, I think, pretty much consistently makes workers for the first like 20 minutes of the game.
Right. Yeah, he was sitting at about 72 at the end. He did sack 3, so I don't know what it was after that.
I don't know. Sometimes you might question, like, it's great to have a lot of high-tech units, but and I'm no Protoss player, that's for sure, but you do need to have that buffer in there sometimes, and it just seemed like he didn't quite have it. Zan was able to take out a couple of the high-tech, high-impact units pretty quickly in that fight, and really swung it in his favor. However, on to the game, we have spawning as the Blue Terran. He's up in the top of Vani Research Station. He's looking to win this one and bring himself up into the grand finals. He is our player from Minnesota. He is Zan.
And spawning at the bottom of the map, opening with another proxy gateway, our red Protoss, Playa. 1 game away from the loser's bracket, 2 games away from the grand finals. Certainly fired up. Zan, very diligent in scouting for this proxy. Is queued up to scout it.
Yeah, certainly. We'll see if... okay, the SCV does continue his scout.
Just as it finishes, right? So he has enough time to respond in the same way he did last game, right? Build another bunker, build a supply depot to make sure that the Zealot or the Stalker follow-up doesn't get into the main. And of course, like you said, he can kill it with a Reaper, but it takes about 14 Reaper shots to kill a Zealot. So in that time, right, he's going to disrupt your mining time, and if you don't control it properly, he might kill a worker. So he is queued up to go straight up the ramp. The bunker's a little bit later, or rather the Zealot's a little closer this time. So you might be able to pick off or deny the building of one of these.
Okay, the RNG is with Zan this time. The SCVs properly hide away from the Zealot.
Yeah, and now we play a little hide and go seek between the Zealot and the Reaper. Like you said last game, the Reaper will take a while to kill this pylon, but it looks like he's opting to do just that. It's kind of the safe play. The Cyber Core already down, so it's not going to delay the tech of Playa, but he doesn't like to build more than 1 or 2 gateways in the early game anyway.
Yeah, so
because it delays tech.
Yeah, and he's going for a quick nexus behind this, pretty similar to last game. He knows that he just sees a Reaper out of Zan, and so he knows, all right, there's not too much that's terribly scary right away. There's just a Reaper that. Oh, we'll see will this Stalker get chronoed out in time. Sam, you're the expert.
I don't know how fast a Reaper kills a pylon. It looks pretty darn close to me. I do know that this is one of those moments where it's a small thing, but this could have a big impact on the game.
Certainly, and I mean, a Reaper, well, it's still faster than a Stalker, and it shouldn't necessarily die to a Stalker, but it definitely can't engage it.
Well, it's certainly a difference in pressure, though. If you properly control this as playa, you can kite all of these units forever.
Yep.
If a Reaper follows you too quickly, you can kill it. But the regen on a Reaper is a lot faster than a Stalker, so there's some cute things you can do with that. But
certainly, and it looks like this pylon will probably end up, yeah, definitely going down. A little bit of a supply block for Playa, but I think he's probably happy enough that he just has this this Stalker out on the field.
Right. It's a good advantage for him. He does have the Nexus finishing right, so that'll clear his supply block. For all of the boys and girls watching at home, though, always a good idea when you have a pylon that is liable to die to queue an extra one up for it. Of course, play a high-level player playing things a little bit closer as far as timings, health of units, stuff like that. So he's trying to make a little bit more out of it than the average bear. Doesn't want to spend those extra resources if he doesn't have to. And in that situation, right, it just ends up with a few seconds of him being supply blocked. Not a big deal. In the end, once again, right, we have Playa pulling ahead in supply, but with a natural expansion that absolutely begs for a drop. Lots of open airspace on the backside there. So we'll see if we see a similar follow-up. We do have a medevac coming out pretty quickly with a mine. Or 2 mines now, rather. A mine in production and a mine on the field. Zan opting to clear this gateway. Of course, it is closer to his main, right? Opting to clear the gateway a little bit earlier this game. So we have a photon overcharge, but it looks like Zan's actually looking for a big push. Maybe he drops a mine or a few units to the back. But it looks like he's trying to just do a marine shove here. We don't have a sentry for Playa, and in fact, we only have the 1 Stalker still, but we do have a defensive DT, right? So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. We have 3 scans for our Terran. And this time he loses 2 Marines and a scan, right, for the 1 DT. Oh, drops a defensive mine to fall back on.
And the photon overcharge definitely going to keep Zan out of additional pressure, but will the drop into the natural of Playa be able to get something going? There's still another pylon down, or
so there's a cannon there too, but we don't have a big warp-in potential for Playa still. He's just got the 1 gateway because he lost his out on the map. But you're right, he does have the other photon overcharge. This game, though, instead of opening an observer to try to make sure he doesn't take, massive damage from mines, he already has cannons, so instead he's making a warp prism. That's pretty bold. I think it's a pretty high risk play, but he does have DTs. Maybe he thinks since his opponent's confident, he can keep play at home. He doesn't invest in missile turrets the same. In this case, we have 2 missile turrets down, but not 1 at the main. So we'll see.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess. All right, let's look at the state of the game since I know nothing about TVP. So I mean, we're looking at still a worker advantage for Playa, although we've seen at the end of the day,
this is sort of what we expect to see in TVT.
Zan doesn't really let that bother him. He's okay with with playing a little bit behind on the worker count. He just goes for a bigger army.
Right.
Frees up supply, right? All about them mules. However, 0 workers killed. For either of the players, so Zan not really getting the damage done that he quite wants on his harass. We'll see if this warp prism on the right side of Zan's natural decides to do anything. Just a couple of Dark Templars and a Zealot Orphan. There is a missile turret, but Zealots do kill SCVs real quick. Is it 1 swipe or 2?
For a Zealot 2. For a DT, it's 1 unless there are upgrades at play, and then we never know. So he doesn't clear it, which just forces a scan, right? Ideally, you force 2 scans for a DT.
Sure.
It's always cool, but any is good. So that's not bad at all. I mean, considering, right, that he's killed more workers than Zan, and Zan's been the dropping, pressuring player. That's pretty good.
Yeah, he kills 11. I mean, he kills 11 workers. He kills a turret. Zan has to remake that. He also forces a scan, so I mean, I'd call that pretty well worth it pretty small investment. And Zan, yes, also not getting the damage done that he wants. So
Right. I love this position right now for Playa. Able to clean up the drop at the back at his natural really well, keeps the Warp Prism out on the map, and now he's pushing back this drop, or this force rather, for Zan, and if he plays it right, he should be able to clean it up, or at least delay it. Looks like he's playing a little bit safer than that, decides to opt to take a safe third instead. And he's forcing Zan to keep at least something at home, right, to deal with the drop potential. Zan doesn't have a perfect idea, right, how many gates he has right now, but
yeah, a big pickup out of Zan on these medevacs that are back home. We'll see if that turns into a little bit of a kind of semi-doom drop into the natural of Playa. But Playa, like last time, has the fleet of Phoenixes, and this time he's building up even more of them to be some of that drop defense. And I guess, I mean, it does keep the medevac count low, and in this case, right, he's very frustrated by the last game where there's a lot of dropping happening there. Certainly.
And the same in this game. If he's able to pick this off, that's a huge win. That's almost game-ending for Zan, as long as he can close it out right. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and it looks like those. Okay,
so he does scout it. He doesn't manage to take down any of the medevacs, but once again, I mean, it's a failed drop, right?
Yep.
Instead, a big push at the front. Play a little bit out of position, but
a little bit of action at the third base, but it does get cleaned up with a, well, not quite cleaned up, but forced away.
Oh, and a good stim. He should be able to snipe this.
Yeah, not a lot of army quite
doing really well to target down the Nexus, and does pick it. He should be able to pick up and run, but
he's been watching Pult play. I think Zan is a strong supporter of Team Pult, and maybe he's trying to emulate his hero a little bit.
Right, and doing a good job of stimming back. His units are getting a little bit low, but Playa is swooping out, right, to either pick up units here or pick off the medevacs. He might be able to do both.
Why not
Phoenix
have both,
can
Sam?
catch medevacs. What?
Why not have both, Sam?
Why not have both? He's got a great Phoenix count right now, which at counts like this against bio counts like that, right? If you don't have enough Marines, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah,
Playa doing a great job to clean up, and he's really shooting up in supply.
Yeah, as it is though, Playa still. This is almost the point where I'd like Playa to say, okay, I think I have enough workers. I have 74. I think it's about time to just go all in on, maybe make a few more gateways and just, well, I mean, can you just wrap it up as a protest? Can you shove up into his main base and say, all right, this is game over?
It's really scary, right? Because mines are totally imbalanced, right? David, can please hear us. Please forward on what the Midwest Cup has to say, right? Expert analysis. But mines are scary, as well as just attacking up into bunkers with mass repair or, medevac supported bio. He doesn't really have a high medevac count right now. Although that's super scary. You can certainly kill it, but in this game, right, he's getting his Colossus count up, and that's a pretty good trade. The Phoenix a little bit out of position here. Should be probably closer to the natural, or patrolling somewhere, right, airspace where medevacs might like to drop, but
sure. And Zan's thinking about sneaking around these sides here, so there will be probably some drops in the east and west of Playa's bases, while there is a drop by Playa coming into Zan's third, kind of deciding to just go for the scout, realizing it's not worth it to try and warp anything in on that location. Goes up into the main where he sees no missile turrets. He's probably gonna get a nice little advantageous spot here.
Yeah, and that's a really cool drop. Once again, 2 Zealots, 1 DT. Very cool. It's a little bit meatier, right, than just DTs. They're not going to go down quite as quick, and they're going to tank some shots for the TTs. Big drop, though, coming for Zan to the back of the natural. He does, Playa does recall over. And the Phoenix are going to pick off everything.
That's not where you want to go, medevacs.
Not at all, but we'll see if Zan's taking this opportunity, right? He pulled the entire army of Playa over to try to push in on this third, but I don't think he has what he needs.
Probably not quite, but this does mean Zan does get his own third down. He is still pretty behind in the worker count, although the power of Terran, his
right. I
his
mean, well,
income is
both
the same.
players, right, killing a substantial number.
Yeah.
And the Phoenix of Playa almost catching that last shove from Zan. Zan is able to save those, though. Very good play out of him, but I mean, this is a scary situation, right? We have the Colossus and potentially the Storms out of play.
Yeah, it's going to be a big fight, and I mean, we've got a ghost or two in the making, but are there any with the army so far? There are 4, so he'll have a few
Right, and those
few
can be
AMGs.
useful even if you're not denying storms. Those are useful just to knock down the shields, right? It's
Yep.
good AoE, so to speak, against Protoss.
Yeah, especially, I mean, the Archons and the Immortals in there are nice targets to get those shields down quick.
Right, exactly. So we'll see what happens here. We do have the reinforcing Warp Prism. So it'll be interesting to see how Playa plays this. He is establishing a 5th behind this, right? So maybe he opts to just try to max out before he fights. He doesn't really know that Zan has Ghost at this point, I don't think. He might have... Oh, he did scout the Ghost Academy. Checks for a 5th of Zans.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess... Okay. So, I mean, maybe part of it, the non-engagement is that extended thermal lance from Playa not being finished yet. Perhaps he just wants to wait until that actually comes out. Maybe, well, it should line up decently with this 3rd Colossus joining up into the army. Rather, the 4th Colossus joining up with the army.
Right.
And I would think that's about the time that Playa says, "All right, let's do this, boys." Maybe even a little bit early though, which I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see. He does have a decent concave. A good storm does come down.
Very
He
nice.
only has
storm.
the 2 Colossus, right? No range. Another storm going down. 3rd Colossus joining the fight. The 2 of his Colossus look like they're going to go down there in the original engagement. He is picking off medevacs though, which is really cool. Any trade you can take with bio where you not only kill the bio, but you're also killing medevacs is a win.
Yeah, certainly. And
The DTs once again being very annoying. Zan staying at a low orbital count. So he doesn't have the scans, right? He does have defensive missile turrets. There you go, another scan to pick off. Just one lonesome DT.
oh, okay. I was about to say, what if those Widow Mines just like somehow magically stop the recall from happening? That'd be pretty tricky little play.
Pretty cool. You need 2 Widow Mine shots to hit a mothership, though.
Yeah.
A mothership core. So Playa now warping in DTs for Archons, right? To give himself a little bit more AoE, a little bit of tankiness, and in the Magic world, right, he's able to target down some Vikings in the air with him. So pretty cool. Also rounding out with more Templar. I would love to see just Colossus on Colossus right now. Zan is at such a low Viking count, and Playa keeps picking off medevacs, right? So he either gets to build more medevacs to make his bio stronger, or he has to build the Vikings. And that's what you want him to build anyway. You want him to build Vikings. So it'll be interesting to see how Playa continues to play this. He is double producing Colossus now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Playa might just be comfortable with saying, okay, well, I'm definitely on far more bases than you are. If I can trade on an army and trade out in such a way that Zan had no opportunity to really counterattack right after that fight went on, and so there's no like hurry in getting units out. So Playa has the leisure of just pumping out some more Colossus instead of just going for a giant swell of gateway units.
Sure.
And a fleet beacon coming out of the, I want to see a carrier. That'd be so cool.
Still no additional observers out of Playa. He just wants those Colossus, right? So it's a little bit annoying, right? He would love, I think, an observer in the right and left airspace, as well as trying to track down the army.
Yeah, and I mean,
Zan.
There's going to be a decent number of ghosts in this next fight, and I guess Cloak is finished up. I mean, although really only 8 Cloak ghosts, they do decent damage, but they won't. I don't know, maybe might swing it in the favor of Zan. Although there is a really big army deficit for our Terran player right now. Well, rather not an army deficit actually. Excuse me.
Correct. Yeah, he's actually ahead. So we're at 104 workers for Playa.
Yeah.
Like you said before, he pretty much builds them in 20 minutes. We're a little bit past that, and he has cut production, but a lot of people would say he's quite high. So instead, Playa, spending his extra minerals from all those workers on fortifying a position, and starting to get a contain going.
Certainly, this guy.
If he can keep Zan on 3 bases, he can starve him out. Zan's not really in a position where he can really comfortably take a 4th, and his main totally mined out, and his natural almost mined out. So he's not in a bad situation. I would love to see Playa build just one observer.
Yeah, He's
Just
getting
one to bring with your army.
is that wait, gravitic boosters? Yeah, he's getting the observer speed. He's on it, man.
Yeah, he's decided he doesn't want his army to hit the mines before the observers get there anymore.
Yeah.
I usually build 4 or 5 observers in the late game against Terrans for that reason, because often observers get picked off in fights as well. So I usually have 2 with my army, a couple checking drop paths, stuff like that, and then 1 trying to find his army.
Certainly. Playa's kind of so if you're curious about what the campaign of Legacy of the Void might look like, if you ever have to fight against the Protoss, it'll probably look like Playa's base, because he is going full. I guess I mean, usually people say the campaigns are, where it's the Zerg base that just has like 16 spawning pools for some reason, because it's more Zergy. This is hundreds of photon cannons littering the entire field.
Right, but what we're seeing here, right, is he has over 4K, 2K, right, in the bank for minerals and gas, and what you're seeing is both players are maxed, right? So Playa actually has no advantage, and in fact his army is smaller, but he wants that high gateway count, so he can remax right away. And he's actually pushing before they finish, taking that fight. Storm's going down, very good Storm. Zan actually bringing the boys with this fight.
He is. Zan's... You can tell he's a little bit desperate. I mean, he's got... Part of the pulling of the boys was that really there's almost no mining left for Zan.
Right, there's nothing for him to do at home.
It doesn't really matter if he has SCVs doing anything right now. He might as well
mules are great for the pace that they bring in resources, but those resources are leaving those patches. So in the end here, he is losing, and you're seeing he's not building as quickly, right? He's getting 3 Marines and 2 Marauders against 3 Tempests and 2 Colossus, right? And I don't know who wins that fight, because I've never seen it.
But I'd put some money on I'd put a match fixing amount of money on Tempests and Colossi versus a couple of Marines and Marauders. And so so
we have Playa going in, and he picks off the 3rd orbital for free so far. And it looks like Zan's coming back to fight. A couple of good storms on these Vikings could be huge in this fight. We have a high Colossus count, right? But without Colossus, this is a pretty weak army for Playa. He still has, right, 102 workers.
Certainly.
Oh, great EMPs out of Zan.
And did those... not all...
Playa should not pick this fight, though. He should fight with his turrets, if at all.
Yeah, and
is pulling them back. Good Storm coming down. Good EMPs, though. Colossus are fighting. And now this is going to be a battle of production. It looks like Zan should be able to take this, but he is attacking right into cannons, into Colossus, now into Tempest. Good warpins for Playa. Yep, and that's just way too much. Playa played that beautifully.
He certainly did. That's a very interesting style, too. It seems like not too many Protosses go for just ridiculous
It felt like the swarm
macro.
host of Protoss.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit there where, I always get nervous for Playa with just how much he... Oh, wait, no. Oh, we're tied up. I don't even know why I thought that was a 2-0. Oh man,
no.
It's a game.
Zan won that first game pretty well. He took a great fight in that first game.
Yeah.
Just want to take a moment real quick to, sorry to interrupt you guys, but I just want to thank everyone for joining us. Make sure to follow the stream, follow us on Twitter. It's all about about this overlay here, at Nivik706, that's Kevin, at Sam Holtman, that's Sam. I'm at JacksonSC2. Make sure to follow our stuff, follow the stream. There will be more Midwest Cups in the future. Make sure to tell your friends. A lot of the Chai-Craft guys are in the stream. Want to give a shout out to them. And thanks again. Yeah, thanks for joining us, and let's jump into game 3. Sounds like it's real fun.
Sure. And with a little bit of info on the Midwest Cup, if maybe you haven't been on, watching the stream before, and this is just the first day that you've tuned in, the Midwest Cup does actually happen. I'm calling it bi-monthly. People keep telling me that's wrong, but there's no good way to say that it occurs every other month. And so it's a tournament that occurs every other month. So this one's the January tournament. The next one will be in April.
March.
What? January, February,
We're
March.
in January.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It'll
2
be
months.
in March.
I got you, Kev.
You know what?
What I should say is, I don't know, Kev.
I didn't get through second grade very well. All right, I just squeaked by second grade, and you know what? We're not going to talk about it. But no, so the next one will be at the end of March. The tournaments are always the last weekend of the month, and so you can look forward to this sort of action happening every other month. And seeing a lot of these players, you do end up seeing a lot of similar names, and you get some interesting storylines about who can beat who can bring the comeback, who can bring the salt back, and throw it at their opponents and win it out. But as it is, we are loaded up into this game, the final map of this winners finals. The winner of this map is heading up into the grand final, guaranteed at least a second place finish. Up in the top side, we have our blue Terran. He is Zan from Team Ascension.
And spawning at the bottom left, just tying up a game, playing for I Teach, is our red Protoss Playa.
Yes,
Playa.
His clan is I Teach, and the name of it is PM me for details. Or I do coaching, I think. I looked at it because I was curious. And so if you want to get some teaching from Playa, to learn about how to play the most ridiculous macro Protoss that, like, Playa, I actually have not seen any players that have his style of just macroing as hard as he does.
Right, and it was very patient, right? It's very reminiscent of Swarm Host play there, because, you're getting to the point where you're like, well, heck, I have 4K, 3K in the bank, I'm maxed, I have 6 bases, I'm a GM, this isn't supposed to happen to me. and very much like a Swarm Host player, right? Pull 7 drones, build spores, pull 10 more drones, right? Build spines. Sure. And Playa does the same thing. Here, once again, Proxy Gateway, to me, the first 2 games, it seemed to go pretty poorly for him. It does force the Reaper to stay at home, but he hasn't gotten what I would consider to be great results out of it, but maybe the play it forces is what he wants anyway. I'm not really sure. What do you think of?
Yeah, the only thing that I can see it like, because a lot of times you say, okay, a lot of strategies have a certain risk, where if it doesn't work, there's a chance of being totally out of it, if it doesn't work, or there's a chance of, well, okay, this strategy, we can call it almost always good because it either, so say like dropping, you either get a successful drop or at the very least, you pull your opponent's army away from attacking you, sort of thing.
Right.
You could say that it was a failed drop if your opponent cleaned it up or pulled back and pushed your drop away, but at the same time you can say, well, I wasn't being attacked either, so I'd call it pretty good. And maybe this is the sort of play where Playa says, if this works, this works damn good. And if it doesn't
and that
work,
makes sense. And it is the perfect counter cheese, right? Because anything a Terran does that isn't standard here, this does go poorly for him, so it does sort of force that. In this case, it forces a bunker at the top of the ramp. And either the Reaper to stay home or the potential for some damage here, but I think Marines come out every time.
Yeah, certainly.
As long as you get to it.
And Zan kind of adapting a little bit, actually, with deciding, okay, this Reaper is just going to go straight on over, going to scout the base. The previous couple of times he actually used the Reaper to clean up the Zealot, and this time choosing to just say, all right, we'll just defend with a couple of SCVs repairing instead.
Right, and he does get his 2 Marines out, right? So that should push this back right away. His Reaper should still be able to clean up the Zealot.
Yeah, but
this game, it looks like, the Stalker is going to get out. So this might be... he's certainly not going to push up the ramp with it, but it at least gets to protect his gateway, right? And he lets him keep the map presence.
Yeah, it's definitely going to put a little bit more... I would think it puts a little bit more pressure onto Zan to get something done.
Sure.
Interesting. Do you think this SCV over on the left here, has he gotten lost?
I think he's just keeping it out of the fight.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He might have been pondering some cheeky play there, but the only thing I can think that he would have done over there is to proxy a factory to lift into the main, and I don't think that works beyond Platinum League. So.
And so Zan actually being really effective with this Reaper now, getting 2 drone kills off of it. It's gonna get cleaned up,
good Gun City there by Playa.
Yeah, but Zan manages to see the Forge and the Twilight Council. He can probably assume, here comes the DT Shrine. There is no engineering bay yet, so at the very least, a scan could clean up a Dark Templar, but missile turrets is probably your best choice.
Right, and this is all out 3 racks, right? With concussive shell, actually, that's very interesting. So hoping to be able to I think this is really aggressive. This is, in fact, you might even say it's more aggressive than a stim timing here because stim is better into the late game than concussive shell.
Yeah.
So he's just counting on low gateway count of units, which is probably accurate, right, based off the games we've seen from Playa.
Yeah, extremely stylistic.
Just fighting a photon overcharge, basically.
Yeah, and speaking of low gateway count, we have one that just finished, and then we have another one that's just barely going to be... I don't think it'll even finish warping in by the time this attack really hits. So I guess the photon overcharge will keep this at bay, mostly? We'll see. I mean...
no, he could walk up the ramp, actually, if he wanted
true.
to. So we'll see what he can do here. 1 DT coming out. I imagine Zan saved his scan, yep, for this very occasion. And he is choosing to go back, forces the photon overcharge, and drops back. He didn't rally across the map, so it doesn't look like he's planning to stick around. I mean, he kills a DT for a Marine there, basically, and a photon overcharge, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess pretty smart of Zan to not say, let's just walk up into the main, because he doesn't know what's up in the main. That's a scary place to just jaunt up into.
Weird to me, though, that he opened with concussive shell. I mean, maybe that's just for any aggression, maybe any stalker poking that Playa does do. He gets to pretty comfortably bat it away, but...
Yeah, it could be. I mean, maybe he's thinking, all right, well, what are the options that Playa might have? He could have... I mean, there is a chance he has a large gateway force, and that the concussive shells allows him to just kind of kite things away pretty much indefinitely, or chase things down as well. Not allowing things like stalkers to actually escape his army.
Another scan for another DT.
Yeah.
And we do see Immortals coming out for Playa. That's really important, just to have something that can stay in the fight, and something that can target down Marauders. So that's really good. He does have another Photon Overcharge here, so he should be able to hold this. Another DT coming out, right? Forces another scan, or another way to say that is not another mule. And does have good DPS. So no scan coming down yet. Always hard to tell, right, in a big fight like that, whether or not there's an actual DT there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure I've woken up with nightmares of the phantom DT swiping sound. You know, what was that a DT, or was that the washing machine? I don't even know anymore. No, but held off very nicely by Playa. I was gonna call them patented Zan drops are gonna be starting soon. I don't even know if that's the right word though. So, but yeah, Zan choosing to come in with some drops. One into the main of Playa. Looks like he might be able to clean up like a pylon or two. So not terrible.
Yeah, and maybe more. I mean, because Playa's still small army on the ground here. Does get a warp in, right, and has an Immortal there, so he should be able to bat that away. Curiously enough, though, we're seeing Zan substitute Marauders for mines this game. He just has the one mine. And in our previous games, we had seen him get out 2, 3, 4 mines by this time in the game. And didn't really have great success. Playa did a pretty good job of I mean, he's had cannons, right, in his mineral lines every game, which prevents, like, a devastating mine just sitting there. And also, he's done a good job of just trying to protect his mineral lines in general, so... Good adaptation by Zan there.
Yeah, certainly. Both players, we're seeing both players do things a little bit different this time around, kind of... They've felt each other out between the first and second games, and maybe starting to understand, okay, let's try something a little bit new.
Right. Something new. I would love to see this game would be a few more observers. Oh, Playa pushing out right when charge finishes.
Yeah, very strong attack out of this.
Doesn't have the Phoenix behind it, but he should be able to push this back. Just the charge lots themselves, really strong. I mean, if he had his Phoenix there locally, right, he would have been able to pick off or force units to stay on the ground a little bit longer there. But in the end, not a bad trade at all.
Yeah, and Zan managing to retain a lot more of his medevacs this time around as well.
I would have lost everything. I would have boosted the wrong way.
Yep. I mean, I would have tried to 2-racks and lost because I'm a terrible Terran, but...
Playa, though, dropping a lot earlier robotics bay this game.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the past couple of games we've seen a super late I mean, Colossus, and then even just as well, a very late extended thermal lance out of him, which kind of made, I mean, game 1, maybe it wasn't the entire difference, to be honest. You know, he lost the Colossus very, very early. But then even in game 2, I think some of his first fights were, well, rather, I think he wasn't really able to take a first engagement when he didn't have the extended thermal lance finished up yet, so.
Right, so we do have a kind of a scary bio count with 6 medevacs supporting right. And it looks like, what, 2 mines? And not a great ground count out of Playa. Just barely has a photon overcharge this game. Good force field comes down. This can, of course, right, if he tries to charge down, work against him, and it is. But helpful for defense there, and does allow him to clean up, you know, a set number of units.
Certainly, now the Phoenix
He's decided to push right down. This is a curious choice, but I have no idea what's going to happen.
I know.
Very close, though, certainly. If Playa can clean up the medvacs here, this is a huge win for him.
And these Immortals really have been, I think, the shining force in the army. They weren't taken out during that entire... I mean, they got to live through that entire fight. They got to put out their high DPS that entire time, and really doing a lot of good work on cleaning up that army of Zan. And now we've got still a pretty even army supply for the 2 players, but very effective units coming out of Playa and being retained by Playa.
Right, and he's done a good job of keeping most of his higher cost units alive, most of his higher gas cost units. He did lose an Archon there, and that's sad. But Zan actually has been doing something what I think is rather uncharacteristic of a Terran and retaining his bio really pretty well. I mean, even in that fight, it's like he probably lost the fight due to not having defender's advantage there. But he did manage to keep a fair number of the supply alive. He does scout proxy pylon, just barely going down at the top of the map.
Certainly. And Zan managing to not stay ahead or even on workers with Playa, but he is able to get this 3rd base up. I don't know if it's been up much earlier than it was in the previous games. But
yeah,
it's still...
well, this one was just half behind Playa's, so that's not bad. Big drop though coming down into the main with the smaller force pushing down at the 3rd.
And this,
I think Playa's going to try to push it back and recall. We'll see.
Oh, it looks like Playa split up his army a little bit to deal with this, but I don't. It might just be enough. A very small force defending the main base.
Yeah, he does have 2 DTs, but not really the zealot count that you need to save your Colossus here.
I mean, he does have the control though to do it.
Really good play. Another medevac goes down. These Marauders' lives are forfeit as well.
And actually, nearly all of the medevacs. There's only 3 medevacs left on the field for Zan, and so now he's into the point of, I've seen Colossus. I've seen a good amount of Colossus, but now I have low medevacs and a pretty low Viking count, so I have to decide what to do with. I mean, he's got 2 starports now, so he will have a little bit more flexibility in the amount of air units that he's able to pump out. But
right, another change he has made here, right, is he's got 20 Marauders with his army right now.
Yeah,
it's a huge count. So right in response, we'd love to see Colossus do really well against Marauders, Immortals do really well, and just flooding Zealots. But he just pokes in, right. He's able to pick that base off for free so far, but it looks like he wants more.
Certainly, in this couple of I do like the force fields out of Playa, kind of just funneling Zan down, but not taking the engagement yet. As the 3rd Colossus joins up with the army, he is going for this fight and doing quite well at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is it's the situation where it's like now Playa, right, has a little bit of bank. He's got a better economy. And he's picking decent fights, right? So things should go well for him as long as he's able to retain his Colossus. The Colossus being the bulk of the damage being dealt in the fight, but he's continued to keep that medevac count low. So it really, it reduces the number of times that Zan can stem or Zan's units die to splash.
Certainly, and now, I mean, Zan managing to pick up that 4th base, but it's certainly not slowing Playa down. he's decided to go for another fourth over in the east side instead of that kind of tucked away
Right.
fourth into the west side of the west side of the map. However, looks like he's going to go for he's doing the Zerg thing and saying, I'll take my fourth and fifth at the same time. Why not?
Right. So once again, I mean, he is kind of supplementing his low observer count by having a high Phoenix count, right? They can kind of serve some of the same purposes. They're not in perfect positions, a lot of them with his army, but that's okay. He needs something to fight back against the Vikings, and it's allowed him to pick off a lot of medevacs. So, all good things.
Certainly.
He does clear out the one proxy pylon, but he knocked away that harassment easily enough. Looks like he's going for a 3 medevac drop back to the west side of the map, and a big marauder shove to the east.
This drop will be noticed by Playa over on the west side. The Phoenix is going to be flying in to intercept, all the while a little bit of hesitation on taking that fight by kind of both players over on the east side of the map.
Right, which is reasonable, 1 game away, and in fact very close.
Indeed.
To the grand finals.
Those medevacs all cleaned up by the flock of Phoenixes. I guess it's not a flock.
And that's a huge win. I mean, that takes away all of the strength of this push being a multi-pronged aggression. I mean, it lets Playa bring his Phoenix back over, right, and they can freely engage in that fight, because he knows there can't be that much more behind it. A lot of Templar coming out, and a lot of Storms for Playa. Not great against the Marauder count. They are good against, of course, Marines. And every feedback is, a medevac taken out of the fight. It'll be interesting to see what happens coming right over as the SEV transfer comes.
Ooh.
Some good storms coming down. Oh, this is a great fight for Playa. He's going to the grand finals.
Indeed, he is.
There's no stopping this for Zan. He doesn't have the production behind this. He doesn't have the economy behind this. And he doesn't have an army to back that up. Great play out of Playa. Very good games out of Zan, though.
Yeah, very well won out of our protest player. He stuck with it and managed to pull it out, and that's actually a little bit different from the Midwest Cup #1 result, where Zan was actually able to take out Playa. But now Zan will be heading down into the losers final. So he's not out of it yet. As we can see by